Hi everyone, this is the simulation report generated by Frank. In the first part, I will make a brief analysis of the simulation in the context of BMC module. Firstly, I will briefly analyze the simulation business scenario in terms of customer segments, value propositions, and customer relationships. According to the market research report and comprehensive consideration during the whole simulation process, in the end, young single employees were chosen as the core customers. This group of people tend to have long-term traveling needs and a stable income. They also have a passion to their personal lives and a need in the personal styles. In addition, the average of this reported data shows that they have relatively high level of acceptance of all types of bikes. So this group is the most suitable to becoming the core customers. According to these core customer groups, BMC also construct a corresponding value proposition, which include product manufacturing, product maintenance, personal customization, and online services from the perspective of product and services. In terms of value proposition, BMC can firstly help these core customers to solve some problems they encountered in their daily life, such as not having enough parking space, spending too much on their daily commute, not finding a healthier way to get around. Similarly, companies can also create additional values by providing healthier choice for their core customers and by reducing unnecessary expense for them. It also fulfills the ethical pursuit for environmental protection for some specific customers too. Accordingly, there are two main types of customer relationships that companies expected to build. One is services relationship between the company and its core customers. They want to provide the core customers with personalized, independent services and advice. Similarly, companies want to build a community between customers. Through the community, not only can customers exchange opinions with each other, but also the company itself can get feedback on its products and services. The second section focused on the channels, key activities, and key resources. These three dimensions have mutual influence on each other. For the business case in the simulation environment, its main channels are divided into two categories. One is the sales channel and the other one is promotion channels. For the sales channels, it's mainly including small retailers, large retailers, online sales, and so on. The promotion channels including paper promotion, social media promotion, online promotion, and exhibition to carry out related promotion activities. According to those channels, companies need to carry out the corresponding activities too. The core activities including the production of physical products, the update and maintenance of the official website, the provisional for after-sales services such as repairs and maintenance, as well as the delivery of products and maintenance and contact with major distributor and distribution channels too. In the activities, variety of key resources are also generated. The key resources are mainly divided into four modules. The first is technology, which require corresponding software design technology, product design technology, and related manufacturing technology. Secondly, there are human resources, which require design department, production department, customer services group, and community management department. Next, there are the physical resources, which including relevant product manufacturing plants and assembly line, warehouse space, and customer information storage centers. Finally, financial resources are needed to support all those activities. For example, external investment and social crowdfunding. The third actions focused on the cost structure, revenue stream, and key partners. The cost structure of the business entity in the simulation environment is based on the salaries of the employees, the production of the physical products, the purchase of the new raw materials, the storage of data, the marketing expense, packaging and shipping costs. There are also costs associated with market research and production research at the beginning of the business. The cost structure is quite complex for the entity. In the construct of its complex cost structure, the company's profit stream is relatively single. It is mainly from the sales of physical products. A certain amount of profit can come from the personalized products, as well as the potential revenue from the memberships. And also in this section, another major theme is individuals or organizations that can generate cooperation with the companies, which we call the key partners. They can act as both suppliers and receivers. Examples including suppliers of raw materials, providers of distribution platform, machine providers, and various advertising companies. All of these can cooperate with the enterprise as suppliers. The role of receivers is more often played by the, for example, small distributors. To a certain extent, they can take the role of the receivers. The construction and analysis of the BMC allow me to confirm that the business entity in the simulation environment have a basic 9 element to be able to carry out business activities. In the second part, I'm going to describe the 2 strategies that I used in the simulation. I have considered 2 different simulation strategies while conducting the simulation. They are the value of death and the IGL innovation strategy. But unfortunately, neither of them is very successful in terms of result. And I will explain and analyze the simulation process for those 2 strategies later. The first one is the valley of death, which is the phenomenon and model of entrepreneurial process. And it's believed that the emerging startup will experience a valley of death in its growth process. The valley is often occurred due to the fact that the business need to spend various things during the startup period, and the business doesn't not begin, which results in the income cannot be able to cover the cost. Thus, the revenue is negative for a considerable long time. Many professional studies have defined this period. For example, Markheim described the valley of death as the gap between technical invention or market recognition of an idea and the effort to commercialize it. Although the valley of death is an entrepreneurial phenomenon, it still reveals certain entrepreneurial ideas and strategies for us. That is, to take certain risks during the startup period of the enterprise to carry out the corresponding research and investigation on the product and the market. After that, the business can be brought back to the right track through the positive effect generated by the rational operations and the management. So a large part of the simulation process that what I did was along these times. I basically do not think about the actual revenue results between the first and second years. The basic operation idea is to first conduct market research and study, divide the market, and then select relatively more advantageous customer groups according to the corresponding market research report and customer preferences to carry out the product research and production, and at the same time formulate the future sales strategy. Since there is no sales in the current stage, I will make a rough judgment and estimation of the future sales situation. Then I will expand the corresponding physical space requirements and formulate the matching financing strategies. The advantages of adopting this strategy is that the first years and the second years of my personal simulation process, there are very clear goals and plans. And due to very sufficient market research and customers analysis in the early stage, let me have a clear production and future development goals. In addition, this strategy also ensures that I have a clear understanding to the entire micro market and micro personal competitiveness, and to know what I need to improve at what level. But the disadvantages of this strategy is also clear, which is very uncontrollable risks, because during the first years of the second year's operation, basically need to maintain a long time loss. After my many time tests, it is acceptable to maintain a loss for 1 or 2 quarters. But if it exceeds 2 quarters, their loss can be difficult to recover. However, even if I know the acceptable level of loss, but as a manager, dealing with the situation. On the one hand, it is difficult to determine the boundary that makes the loss unbearable for the company. On the other hand, it is difficult to quickly cut off the stop of the loss-making project. The implementation of the strategy is like riding a roller coaster. Only when you see the downhill, you know you need to stop. But often at this time, it is the most difficult to stop. The situation is also happened in the group activities. When our group is adopt the strategies that basically same, despite only to being in operation in 3 years, but at that time we spent roughly half of it to a loss. We were busy to the production research and market research. At the end of the second year and the beginning of the third years, team members realized that this kind of loss situation is not reasonable, and the trend is too prevalent. So the beginning of the year 3, we started to begin formally execute the production, sales, and distribution. But very sadly, even at that time, the beginning of the year 3, we started to increase the production. It is still a job in the bucket. It's difficult to make the previous loss to feel back. The second strategy adopted in my simulation is agile innovation, which is meant to be a customer-centered approach and to change production and strategy around the customer's need. In my simulation, agile innovation is basically implied in small cycles, one after another. For example, in the Q1 of the first year of the simulation, I might do a small amount of the site expansion, market research, and hiring. Also, most importantly, at the beginning of the Q1, I would go to do the product research. The tendency of the product research will be relatively even, and I won't be intentionally increase the research on particular aspect of the product qualities. In the second quarter, I will change my R&D strategy based on the market report and analysis from the previous quarter, adjust my strategy again, and to make the production more specific. Also try to produce the products from the first quarter. Right after it in the third quarter, I will go to for the sales of the products which produced previous 2 quarters. Maybe the sales data is not good at this stage, but based on the sales, I will conduct a similar market research again and then adjust the strategy. This is a cycle of continuous development of this business. So the operation process of adopting agile innovation strategy, which is market research to product research to product production to sales to market research, which are 4 steps as a cycle and repeated implementation. The biggest advantage of this strategy is that it is have a very high degree of flexibility. When in a quarter or period of time found that the sales data and revenue data become anomaly or is not very optimistic situation, it can be adjusted in a timely manner. It is also able to keep up to date with market and customer needs. However, while implementing this strategy, I also found some disadvantages about it. For example, there are a lot of conditions that need to be taken into consider when implementing this strategy, because the strategy is made upon one cycle after another. Each cycle, each loop affect each other. Therefore, this is necessary to make adjustment to the decision made in the loop quarter by quarter. Also, unlike the operational strategies that involved in the valley of death, the negative outcome of the valley of death is a very visual decline, like a roller coaster right downhill, but not so in agile innovation strategy. This strategy is not that obvious when about perceiving the anomalies and the mistakes. Instead, it explodes at some time in some point. The negative situation is small and accumulates between circles. Observing these loops on the quarterly basis does not give a very clear and intuitive sense of the actual profit and loss situation. But when looking at them on a yearly basis, it became clear that the explosion failure all caused by this accumulate of the mistake in each quarter and each quarter. Finally, at some point, it leads to the bankruptcy. Therefore, when implementing the strategy, managers need to have a very clear understanding of the various business models and departments in the organizations. They need to have a clear perceptions about the purpose of each product and each actions. The managers themselves need to have predict in advance the acceptability of the loss to the business. And in the part 3, I'm going to do some reflection. Through the simulation, although my application and understanding of the most what I learned was quite well, however, it still made me realize that in some aspect, my personal ability is still lacking. Firstly, I still lack the ability to analyze the general environment and trends. For example, this was evident in the choice of the valley of death strategy when I tried to implement this strategy several times, but most of the times it's still difficult to grasp the overall direction of the strategy. Most of the times I was overly concerned about the current tasks to be performed and the lack of observation of the macro situation, resulting to many simulation fails in the year 3. If I want to be a manager, I need to be able to analyze and understanding the macro environment better. From my personal point of view, I need to spend at least 3 years making up of my own lack of sensitivities to change in the environment with a variety of jobs and experience in the internship. The goal and the approach is feasible because from a personal point of view, firstly, work is an inevitable situation, and secondly, as a manager, it is far more important to have more practical experience than theoretical experience. So go ahead and make up of the lack of the ability in this area. The simulation gave me a deeper understanding of the situation. However, secondly, I personally think that a more significantly ability gap is the difficulty in making appropriate judgment and decisions at critical points. This happened especially when I went to try to use the agile innovation strategy. There were many series of decisions that are not really done correctly or appropriately. Then when facing too many options and nodes, it is difficult for me to identify the key nodes that can be really change the course of the situation. Therefore, making corresponding changes in the area is very important for me personally. My plan is to make up this lack of ability in the area through a lot of working experience and readings and analyzing various real life cases in the 5 years time. And for if I want to become a qualified manager, this kind of making the right decision at the right time will be very important. This is also, above all, are the 2 points that some reflections and plans for the existing problems of my personal abilities gaps that I have in the simulation activities. So thanks for listening. That's all.